Welcome to another episode of the Superpowered Fancast. This is your host, Darren. So, what's going on in the world this week? Now, there's a lot of stuff that is, I don't know, why even bury the lead? I mean, you got Defenders and Game of Thrones. They're the two biggest things going on this week. And frankly, because they're so big, I'm going to go ahead and not talk about them in this episode. I know that's stupid. Why not talk about the things that are the biggest things that are happening in the geek universe right now? But I want to devote an entire episode to talking about the Defenders, and that's going to be the next episode coming up, the one next week. The other one is going to be an entire episode devoted to this season of Game of Thrones, and it's going to be right after the finale. So I'm going to be talking about the entire season, speculating on next season, telling you what I want to see, and hopefully in the lead up to that, you'll tell me what you want to see, what your theories are, how are they going to wrap this show up. So I'm going to go ahead and put those to the side for a second, because the episode that we're doing today is actually going to be about comic books. Because at the end of it, I've got an interview with an indie comic writer named Todd Black, who has a really great graphic novel that he's trying to get funded. That I've read the first few pages of, that I think is really sweet, really interesting. It's all ages, and it's a really fun story. So I'm going to be talking to him later. So since we're going to talk about the world of comics, I said probably just kind of going into like some basic comic book news. Let's talk about Black Lightning. So Black Lightning is going to have his own CW show, not starting in January, but the original creator of Black Lightning, Tony Isabella, actually is doing a mini series. He's coming back to write the character that he created in 1977, and it's a story called Black Lightning: Cold Dead Hands. So that should give you an indication of kind of what the storyline is going to be about. But he's coming back to actually write a new Black Lightning story, and it's going to be drawn by Clayton Henry. And what the difference is between this story and the upcoming series is that this is going to show Jefferson Pierce, Black Lightning, in his late 20s as a teacher. So he's not going to have any children. So it's going to be, it sounds like an interesting premise, because he's also Isabella also looks like he's going to be making some changes to Tobias Whale as a character. Tobias Whale is Black Lightning's like main villain. So it's going to be intriguing to see what he does with the character and how he changes it, especially since he's saying one of the first things he's doing is not making him albino. So that's going to be strange. It's going to be a different look for Tobias Whale. So in other comic book news, Dark Horse Comics is going to release a new comic from the pages of Hellboy, and it is Rasputin, the Voice of the Dragon. Now, if you're familiar with the Hellboy comic, if you're familiar with the first movie, frankly, then you know about Rasputin's role in Hellboy. But this is an exclusive story that was given to the Hollywood Reporter, showing that there's a spin-off comic coming from the world of Hellboy that will showcase the origins of Rasputin. So it's titled the Rasputin Voice of the Dragon. It's going to dive into the mythology of how Rasputin joined the Nazis during World War II. So it looks interesting. I'm really a huge fan of Hellboy and the world of Hellboy, and I love the BPRD series. So anything that can enhance my enjoyment of the Hellboy series is definitely something I want to be on board with. So I'm going to be picking it up, because the first issue of Rasputin, the Voice of the Dragon, is going to be available on digital and in comic book stores November 29th. Also, of course, I would be remiss if I didn't talk about how awesome Dark Knight's Metal is. It's an amazing book, and it's another one that, frankly, I really just want to do a whole episode on, because I could talk about it from start to finish. I could talk about just the forge and the casting and everything leading up to it, and then talk about the issue itself. Then I want to talk about the spin-offs, because I want to talk about like the different dark multiverse Batman that are going to be descending on Gotham. I want to talk about the Batman who laughs, like as their leader. Like all of these things are plot points that I want to talk about, that I want to dive deep in, and hopefully, as with the episode a couple episodes back, I might actually get to talk to Scott Snyder again about it, and not to spoil it, but just kind of really just kind of like fan gush over it. So I'm actually going to like open it up to questions. So any questions you have for Scott Snyder, please go ahead and email me at superpoweredfancast@gmail.com, or you can follow me on Twitter and ask your questions at superpoweredfan, because I'm hoping to get Scott on board to just kind of hash out this conversation. I think after the metal tie-ins come out, and we just deep dive into just everything he was thinking when he decided to go with these dark multiverse versions of Batman, just because all of them look so interesting, and I really want to know more about them. Now, I could go on all day talking about just, things I want to talk about, and I'm going to get to them, and especially in subsequent episodes, so please encourage you to come back and listen. But this episode's about Todd. It's about Todd Black. It's about his story, 10,000 Miles. It's a really great story, and I want you all to know about it. So, without further ado, this is my interview with writer Todd Black. Welcome to another episode of the Superpowered Fancast. This is Darren, coming to you from the Geeks Worldwide Network, and I'm excited to talk to a creator. And the reason why I'd say it that way is because one of the things I really enjoy about what I'm doing now is being able to talk to people who create, who actually put something new out into the world. And because so many different ideas, so many different things have been done, or people say they've been done. There are people who talk about how there's nothing new under the sun, but there always is. There's always going to be someone who has a new idea, a new concept, or even take something like an idea from childhood, or an idea that's almost that people talk about all the time, to the point where it's part of the lexicon, and then go with it. And there are people, and that's always been interesting to me. And it's actually kind of the crux of the comic that I want to talk about, and the creator of that comic, Mr. Todd Black. So I'm going to say to everyone who's listening, ladies and gentlemen, this is Mr. Todd Black.
Thank you. Happy to be here.
All right. I'm happy to have you here. So, Todd, for anyone who's unfamiliar, tell me a little bit about yourself.
Like I said, my name is Todd Black. I am an indie comic writer and creator. I have 2 comic series under my name in Guardians and Home, and I'm currently working on a 3rd book called 10,000 Miles, which is live now on Kickstarter.
All right. And that's actually what I want to talk about, because the story of 10,000 Miles is so compelling, and that I really want people to, like, because we're going to get like the link to your Kickstarter. We're going to put that on the website. We're going to put it on the podcast feed, because I want people to check it out, because I did. And, yeah, I checked it out, and I thought it was amazing. That's prompting why we're talking today. So just kind of, without spoiling anything, just kind of tell people who are unfamiliar what 10,000 Miles is about.
10,000 Miles is a story of 2 brothers named Bryce and Chris, who, ever since they were 10 years old, have been doing what I like to call little mini adventures. And even though they're young, even though their skills are great, people keep underestimating them. And so when they keep doing these tasks, they get labeled the impossible kids. But then life decides to throw them a curveball at around 18, and they're going to be separated for the first time. So they decide, if we're going to go out, we're going to go out with one last great adventure. And they decide to dig their way to China.
And that's what I was talking about. That's such an ingrained part of the lexicon that people talk about it. And it's it's compelling to me to see it in comic form. Not only because it's an adventure story, but it also looks like a really good kind of relationship story between these two
It
brothers.
is.
Like I'm yeah, and that's what I'm looking forward to reading. Is I want to see that dynamic. And you from everything you said and everything I read before, yeah, these are kids who they've spent their whole lives, defying, um, well, not defying in the sense of being like bad kids, but kind of defying the odds,
Yeah,
defying
expectations.
exactly expectations, defying the preconceived notions of what they can and can't do.
Right.
So it's gonna be interesting to see how that evolves when they start becoming, that at this point they're men. Like how do they resolve the relationship that they have versus the relationships they're going to have to start making out in the
Exactly.
world. So
That's actually the crux of Bryce and Chris's story, is that they've been together for so long, and now the idea of them separating, which will
mhm,
happen, it terrifies them, and they're like, "What are we going to do without the other person?" Because Bryce and Chris is such as brothers
mhm,
to the maximum that they can be. They're dependent on each other. They rely on each other. One is the thinker, the other
mhm,
is the builder, and they work so well together. The idea of not having the other to go on whatever their lives throw them on is insane to them, and that's why they're so desperate in a way to complete this one last mission to dig their way to China, because they they almost don't want this feeling to go away.
mhm.
And so I love telling character stories, and for this is easily one of my best stories, which I can say because I'm the writer. But I love the interactions between Bryce and Chris, especially as they actually start the process of digging their way to China, and things happen.
Mhm.
Yeah, mystery, and all that. But it evolves, and they they grow through this adventure, which is of course what you want to see. But they do it in a way that's believable and true to who they are, which is what I always strive for. So
Yeah.
I look forward to for people to see this when it's done, if we get funded.
Yeah, and that's part of what's so compelling about it is that you have these characters who, even from what I've read, and what I've seen, like you can tell just from their relationship, and even if you really think about it, just the fact that their identities have been so kind of intertwined, that yeah, it's going to be interesting psychologically to see how they not even just physically how they separate, but emotionally how they separate. So that's one of those reasons why a story like that is something that I want to read. So that's another reason why why I wanted to talk to you about it, because I want to get this funded, because I want to read it. I want to read the whole
But
thing.
the real question is, have you pledged?
Mhm. I haven't pledged yet, but it is paid.
Ah!
Oh, but it is payday, so as soon as bills come out of things, and and the first week of school and children's clothing and things are paid for, then I will
Okay.
definitely pledge.
Okay.
And
All
then
right.
and not only will I pledge, but I will email you that I've pledged, so you can see it.
I demand proof.
All
I
right.
demand proof.
Exactly. Pictures or it didn't happen.
Yeah,
But,
there you go.
but
Or
yeah.
I want an email saying that Darren generally pledged to my Kickstarter. So,
All right.
you know,
I'll definitely do so. But my first question is, and we've just kind of talked about it, but I really do kind of want to know, like, where did the inspiration for this story come from? Like, where did 10,000 miles? Like, what were you doing when you thought, you know what, this is a story I want to tell?
okay. Well, the inspiration came from a show a long time ago called Scooby Doo, Where Are You? There you go.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's true. There was an episode where the gang gets lost again, and there's a sign on the side of the road, and it's pointing straight to the ground. And they go, "Shaggy, what does it say?" And he goes, "Like it says China, 10,000 miles that away." And I'm like, I've always remembered that joke. And then as I went on, in life, I kept seeing the
mm-hmm.
referencing to digging your way to China. There was a honeycomb commercial about it. It was in like an Addams Family
Yep.
cartoon, and I kept seeing it. And then I was working at a day job, and there was this contest going on for Oni Press where you could make any submission you want to their publishing. And I had just submitted my previous comic, Home, which didn't get published by them, but I made it anyway. And I was like, well, it's always best to, double your odds. So I thought, what would be my next story? And at the time, Pixar was releasing The Good Dinosaur. And as I really started to think about Pixar films, the question was, what is the crux of every Pixar film? And the answer I found was, what if? What if a meteor missed the Earth and didn't kill the dinosaurs? What if my toys could talk? What if there are monsters in the closet? And so I'm like, what would be my what if story? And then Scooby-Doo popped back into my head. I'm like, what if two kids could dig their way to China? And so I just okay, let's start with that. So it just started growing from there. And eventually 10,000 Miles was born. And, again, we didn't get into Oni Press, sadly, but it stuck with me. And so after Home was done, which we finished this year, I was like, okay, it's time. So, and I call it my Disney Pixar film for that reason, because I feel it's like a Disney Pixar story. It's got engaging characters. It's a fun adventure story. There's comedy, but there's also a deep meaning to what I'm trying to tell here. And I call it an all ages graphic novel because it's 72 pages of one journey, and I truly believe that anyone can read it and enjoy it.
Yeah, and I definitely got the sense just looking at the pages on your Kickstarter, because they were so visually stunning. Like I love the artwork as well. Yeah. It is kind of have that the kind of classic Disney character style to it, but not.
My artist is Alex Garcia, and he actually worked with me on my other comic series, Guardians, all 20 issues. And I had another artist at the beginning, but then we had to drop out, which was fine. And I'm like, I want to make this. I need someone I can count on, and the only person I could think of was Alex. And so I contacted him. I'm like, okay, this is totally different from Guardians. It's not the same style. I need something different. He goes, okay. So I sent him a picture of another children's book called The Princess Who Saved Herself by Greg Pak. I loved that visual style, and I'm like, I want to do something like this. And so he did it, and I looked at the page, and we had to, naturally do some adjusting and whatnot, but it grew into what you see, and I was terrified because this was so different from my other comics, so different from Guardian, so different from Home, which was another artist. But then I started showing it to people, and they're like, oh my gosh, this is gorgeous. I'm like, really? I'm like, oh yeah, this looks like great stuff. And I'm like, so it really gave me the confidence. And so we have the first 20 pages done. The first 11 are on the Kickstarter because I don't want to spoil too much. But yeah, and I can't wait for the other 52 pages, which is what the Kickstarter is funding, to be made, because there are some really cool pages that I can't wait for Alex to draw, because he is truly magnificent when it comes to art.
Oh yeah, it like I said, it looks amazing. It's a really great story, but I want to know, how does the and just because this is a question I just kind of ask all creators, especially comic creators, how does the collaboration work between a writer and an artist? How do you I know it, and I've gotten different answers about different how different processes work for each person, but how did it work for you? Was it a script first that you send to him? Were there conversations in between? How does he visually match your story? Is it all just kind of storyboarded out or written out kind of like with a screenplay?
At its crux, I make demands, he fulfills them. I'm kidding. We actually have a very intricate process. It's come from 20 issues of a superhero comic to 10,000 Miles. I write the full script. I do it all, and then I send it to Alex. And usually he goes with a light sketch. With 10,000 Miles, a little bit different because it was a different style. But essentially, he gives me a pre-final version, and I look at what I see, and I'm like, okay, that's good. Let's tweak that. It's back and forth. So, and now sometimes he does ask me to trust his vision, and I absolutely do. But there's also times where I need him to trust my vision of what I want to see. Yeah. And it's very much a collaboration, and I trust Alex, but Alex trusts me, and if I ask him to change something, he will, and more often than not, it's what I want. So because there's always that what if I tell you to picture a box, you're gonna see it in one position, but I'm gonna see it in another.
Right.
And it's not that either of us are wrong. It's just that you're not.
It's our perceptions are different.
It's our perceptions. So like I've said, like, hey, I need these two people standing like this, and he does it, but not in the way I intended. So I've always I heard a Marvel writer once say, never correct your artist. And as much as I admire that, I can't do that because I'm too narcissistic. It's my vision or the highway. No. But there are things that I need to have seen. And then there's other times where I can be more liberal, and that's fine. So like there was this picture that the one you saw of Bryce and Chris capture a mountain lion because they can, and I'm like, I want the most adorable picture of these two hugging that mountain lion, and Alex just killed it. And I had him change like one thing on the mountain lion, but it was like the most adorable thing I've ever seen.
Yes, yeah, it was. It was kind of like
it was great. But then another time, the very first page, he had Bryce driving a machine, which I won't spoil, but he had Bryce like arms fully extended, driving it like this, and I'm like, that's not natural. So I'm like, relax it, a natural driving pose, 10 and 2 and all that. And, those are just the little things that I think of because I'm like, I don't drive like this. I drive comfortably, even in the face of stress.
Well, yeah, so, I mean, it's kind of the difference between, between having the look of driving and then an artist wanting to make it look as dramatic as possible because of the circumstances.
Yeah, and now I've also learned at times, especially with my series Home, to again trust my artists, and if they feel an objection, that I will listen to it. Like there was this one time I wanted this character like in such detail, but the character was like that big. Oh, sorry, people can't see me. It like less than an inch, like way less than an inch, and I'm like, I want this detail, and she goes, listen, with the text and everything and the perspective, you're not going to see the detail even if I put it there. And I'm like, oh, yeah, you're right. Because I don't think of that kind of stuff. I just think I want the details. I want all the details. I want them on my face. I want them on the armor and everything like that. But every artist is different. I mean, like you said you heard that before. Every artist is different. And I've worked with people who, they prefer for me to trust them. Alex is more liberal. He'll let me tell him the things I need, which is great, which is why I trust him a lot. And it's always a process because the writer wants it to be viewed one way, and then the artist wants to express as best he can. But it's always a balancing act. But with Alex, I am very comfortable. I would put Alex against any DC or Marvel artist.
Yeah.
And I've seen some Marvel and DC artists who I believe can't draw as good as Alex Garcia. And that's not an insult. That just shows how good Alex is.
Oh, no, and I'm with you. Like that's it's one of the things again that that brought me into the pages that I read was just how visually beautiful they are. Like they're really good. And to what you were saying, it's like, yeah, absolutely. I could see, and this actually kind of goes into my last question that I ask creators, but I could see him like taking on like a Marvel or a DC or an Image.
I would be so proud if they hired him.
Oh yeah, I mean they should definitely take a look at it. Yeah. I'm sorry, what were you about to say?
I was just gonna say that the ultimate compliment I can pay Alex is for all comic fans out there. They'll understand this. If I am Scott Snyder, then Alex is my Greg Capullo.
Oh, okay.
Because those two work so well together. We've seen, their glory with Batman and it's like and DC Metal, which just came out.
Well, yeah, I do
he's my Greg Capullo because I can trust him to deliver all the shots. So.
Awesome. Yeah, because I've done like maybe like 6-7 interviews with Scott and with Scott Snyder, and he.
Oh, jealous.
Well, they're amazing. You can if you go to Geeks Worldwide at the gww.com, you can read and just like click on my name. You can read all of the interviews I've had with Scott, and he was actually on the podcast a couple of episodes back, just kind of like a pre-metal thing. But yeah, he's a huge like he's hugely into collaboration, and again back to what you were saying, like just he loves talking about the people he works with, loves talking about the artists. So that's definitely gratifying for me as a fan to know that the team is working as a team.
Yeah. And to be clear to all your listeners, no, I'm not actually on the level of Scott Snyder. It's just I was joking.
Dude,
clearly.
don't sell yourself. Do not sell yourself short. Like it's a great.
Considering I'm not in DC Comics right now, I can't even. I shouldn't even.
But I'm saying it's a great. It is a really great story, and it's a great concept, and it's definitely one of the reasons why I wanted to talk to you about it, because, like, I'll put it to you this way: I'll get as personal as I can, and I don't really get personal, but I'll get personal. I have a twin brother, so me and the relationship between the brothers in your book kind of mirrors a lot of the conversations I had with my brother growing up. Like it was always one of the things where like one of us, like I was pretty much more the idea man, and he was the doer. He was the one that would go out and do it. Now we didn't necessarily, what we were doing wasn't necessarily constructive. It would be something along the lines of, hey, let's, dangle our little brother out of a second story window by bed sheets and see if he can
go wrong.
Exactly. See if he, play Spider-Man out the window. But let's say, it's just the relationship was between them. It mirrors my relationship with my brother. So that's definitely something that a good writer can elicit. So I said, don't sell yourself short.
And that's what I wanted. I wanted Bryce and Chris to be relatable, even though they're about to do the most unrelatable thing you can think of. And that's why I spent like 20 pages getting to the point where they're going to say, hey, let's dig our way to China, because I wanted people to understand how important this relationship was. Because I could have just walked in, get 5 pages and say, hey, let's dig our way to China. Sure, let's do it. But it wouldn't have meant as much.
Yeah.
But by building up Bryce and Chris, by showing people what they've done, it allows me to say, hey, this really doesn't matter that they're about to be separated. And, you understand that they want this one last adventure.
Yeah.
So, and I'm glad it resonates with you. That means I'm doing my job.
Oh yeah, it's great. I mean, you set up some really interesting stakes that I would love to see play out. Like I want to see this journey. So, for like I said, we're definitely going to talk about the Kickstarter and have links to it on both the website, both on my website, on Geeks Worldwide, on superpowerfancast.com. I'm going to have it on the link on this podcast episode. And talk about it, because I want people to experience 10,000 miles, and I want to read the final product. So,
Thank you.
Oh, absolutely. So part of the thing that I saw is that you have some rewards for people who pledge. So what are the rewards for people who pledge on your Kickstarter for 10,000 miles?
Well, just in case nobody knows what Kickstarter is. Kickstarter is a crowdfunding service in which you pledge money to see certain things happen and be made. So if you fund my project, you're helping fund the final 52 pages of 10,000 miles and seeing the comic made for real. If you pledge to any amount, you could get a reward in return. And I made sure that I have rewards for every financial availability, let's call it that. For example, you could pledge $1 and you'll get a thank you email from me, because even $1 helps. It really, really does. If you like digital comics, I have a $5 reward where you can get the entire 10,000 Miles book in a PDF for $5. That's 72 pages. So, that's a pretty good deal. Or if you want to get as much digital comics as you can, you can pledge to our $15 reward tier, where you'll get all of Guardians, my other series, all of Home, my other series, and 10,000 miles. That's 26 comics for $15.
Mm.
But I know that people say, I want the comic in my hand. So we have the $25 reward, which is you'll get the full book in paperback. And then we also have a special, you can get your name in the comic via a thank you section. That's $30. You can also get the paperback of 10,000 Miles and the PDFs of Guardians and Home. You can get drawn into the comic. That's one of my personal favorites. Yes, you can get drawn into the comic. It's $50. And we have, let's see, I think at last tally that we have 25 slots left for that to happen. So definitely, if you want to get drawn to comic, definitely got to pledge to that. If you are an artist and you want to get your work published in a comic, we have a tier for that. You can draw a piece of one of our 10,000 Miles characters or all of our 10,000 Miles characters, and we will publish you with your name and the website, should you have it, in the back of the book.
Nice.
So, yeah, I want to help everyone, which leads me to the $75 reward tier. If you are a writer and you've always dreamed about making comics, but you don't really know where to start, or you want to talk to someone who has published books like I have, I will talk with you via Skype. I will help you on your own journey to make comics, and if you want, I'll even do a review of a script you have done. Don't worry, I won't steal your idea. I have enough of my own. Oh, it's just like, well, how do I know you're not going to steal my idea? Dude, I've done 26 comics. It's not like I'm lacking for ideas here.
Exactly.
So, and I've got another series already in the works, so it's just like, I'm covered. Trust me.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'll do that for 10 people. Should they want it, I'm here to help because people helped me get this far, and I am eternally grateful, and they just asked me to pass it along when I can, so here I am. And then if you only want physical comics, if you want to read everything I've ever written, we have a $150 reward where you'll get all 26 issues of my comics, 10,000 Miles, Guardians, and Home. So,
nice.
Yeah, thank you. So as you can see, digital comics, I got physical comics, I got stuff for artists, I got stuff for writers. I got everyone covered.
Oh yeah, I was gonna say you definitely have the definition of something for everyone. So that's amazing, and I'm going to encourage everyone to go to the Kickstarter page and pledge, because this is I keep saying it. It's a great story, and I want to see it finished, and I want to read it, and and this kind of goes into my last question that I ask. So we've talked about that, not neither one of us is working for Marvel or DC, but if you had your choice to write for any character, doesn't matter which company, what would the character be, and what story would you like to tell?
Okay, I'm going to say 2 because it's important.
Yeah, absolutely, as many as you want.
For the record, I would work for both DC or Marvel, but it's tough because I can think of the characters I want to work for at DC, and it's not the characters you think. With Marvel, I feel like there's more of a variety, that there's potential for stuff that I can't even process. They say, hey, what would you like to write this? I mean, look at what's coming in Marvel Legacy, so you never know. But DC, yeah, they do take a lot of risks. I mean, we saw, with New 52 and Rebirth, all the characters they brought back. So, there's a lot of potential there. But if I was to work at DC, I want to write two characters. One, I want to write Shazam.
Oh, okay.
I love Shazam. He is my hero. He is a character I resonate with. I was so happy when Jeff Johns wrote him back into the New 52, the way he did as a true magical champion with the epic new look. Yeah. And, further differentiating him from a Superman clone, like he's wrongly called, and but then nothing happened. He was in the Justice League. He was part of the Trinity War and Forever Evil and all that stuff, and then he just disappeared. I'm like, where's Shazam? You spent all this time building him up, and then he's gone. So I want Shazam because I want to tell his story. Because even though I know the movie's coming and this won't happen, I want to write a Shazam TV series, like on the CW. And I have concept art for it. I even have, 62 scripts written for it because that's what I do. Yeah, I get obsessive at times.
No, there's absolutely nothing wrong with staying creative.
Thank you. And, well, it was actually because of the scripts that helped me get into comic writing. So, I really it really helped me. So that's why I have an even deeper connection to Shazam.
Mhm.
And he's just a fun character. I'm so sick and tired of people saying, "Oh, he's just a Superman wannabe." I'm like, I will knock you out, okay? And every time I look in media, it seems like Superman is killing Shazam or beating Shazam, even though it shouldn't be that way. But
Because of the vulnerability to magic.
Calming down,
Mm-hmm.
right? So yeah, but Shazam is always important to me. But the other one, and this is a kind of a recent love that I've gotten. I want to write a Poison Ivy solo series.
Really?
Right, Poison Ivy, she has quite a following, actually. You might have even heard of it. They're called the Poison Ivy League.
Yes.
And I have a friend in the league. I call her Red, for obvious reasons. And she convinced me about how important Poison Ivy is. And I just started to think about it. I'm like, okay, should the opportunity come, what would I write for Poison Ivy? And then I just started thinking about this very intricate story about Poison Ivy saving the world, like the world itself,
Mm-hmm.
The actual Earth, but doing it in a way that's non-murderous, non-violent, because not fully
not
violent,
non-violent, right?
Not murderous like she's been depicted in a lot of media, sadly, and it just appealed to me because this is a rather deep character. She's not like the other Batman villains because she just wants to save the planet. And writers like Gail Simone and Amy Chu, who did the Poison Ivy Cycle of Life and Death miniseries, they just really nailed the character and showed that she's multi-layered. And I feel that there's a great story there if I ever get the chance to do it. And so, should DC ever come a knocking, I would say Shazam and Poison Ivy because I feel there's a lot of potential for both those characters.
Oh, awesome. As I said, once you get 10,000 Miles finished, I would definitely send it to DC because I think they would.
Yeah, I have met a few DC editors and and Marvel editors, and I've given them my stuff. But I would love to give them 10,000 Miles and say, "This is like the best work I've ever done. Read it now. Hire me."
Mm-hmm.
That's the dream. My dream is to work at Marvel, DC, Dark Horse, Boom, Dynamite, any of them. I want to write comics. I love writing comics. I love writing character stories, and as much fun as it is writing my own stories, which I will never stop doing, I would love to take some of their characters and see what I can do with them.
Oh yeah.
So.
Well, that's awesome. I mean, and I keep saying, go to the Kickstarter page and pledge, and once you read the first few pages, you're going to want to read the rest. So definitely go there. Like, can you give me the URL here, or you just want to have me just?
I got one. We did a short link for it. You can go to tinyurl.com/10,000 miles comic.
Nice.
So that'll take you right to it if you want to go to it now, or if you want to look for the link in the GWW or all the podcast pages, you can do there. But tinyurl.com/10,000 miles comic. That'll take you right there.
All right. Like I said, I'll be going there, and I will be sending you proof that I've been. But but Todd Black, I really want to thank you for your time this evening.
I'm happy. It really makes me happy when I hear people like you, Darren, say, "Oh, I love this comic. I love the pages I've seen. I want to read more," because it means I'm doing something right. And we're at the time of this recording. We're over 50% funded on the Kickstarter, which is great. But I'm just trying to say, okay, we still got to get the other 50% though. So that's why I'm hoping your viewers will listen and say, yes, I want to see these two kids dig their way to China, and go to the Kickstarter and pledge, because this story has been in my mind for years. I totally wanted to be out into the world. So and hopefully they'll help.
Yeah, and one of the things that makes it resonate is that it does feel so personal. So I like I said, I definitely enjoy it. I encourage everyone to go to the Kickstarter and pledge, and I'm going to be pushing it like everywhere. You're going to be seeing the tiny URL
I look forward to it.
Like everywhere. But Todd Black, thank you so much for your time, and I would love to talk to you again after the funding's completed, and just kind of get your reaction, and then I would love to talk to you once 10,000 Miles is completed.
I would be honored.
All right. All right. So for Superpowered Fancast, this is Darren saying, "I'll talk to you all another time." I still don't have a catchphrase. I need I'm 20. I'm like 20 something episodes in, and I never know how to end one of these. So, bye. All right, so there you have it. It's another episode of the Superpowered Fancast. I know I'm getting redundant with the endings. It's almost more endings than a Lord of the Rings movie, but I want to get the information out there. And frankly, what I really wanted to say is, everyone who listens to the podcast, everyone who's downloading it, everyone who's tweeting about it, everyone who's going to the website superpoweredfancast.com and subscribing and sharing articles and commenting, thank you so much. Like, sincerely, I do this. This is definitely a labor of love for me. This is something that, just from the offset, I love to write. I love just everything all the things that I say to people about the things that I'm a fan of. If I can't get to those people in time to talk to them, then, the thoughts are still there and they're whirling around. And this has been probably the best experience I've had in a long time, just having the opportunity to just write those things out. And then getting to meet and know people who share those same interests. So I really appreciate everyone who's allowed me to continue doing this, because I've yet to be discouraged in anything regarding this, and I continue to be encouraged by my interactions with all of you, and I'd like them to continue. So please send me an email with anything you want to talk about, any topics you want to discuss, any articles you want to see, like at superpoweredfancast@gmail.com. You can follow me on Twitter @superpoweredfan, and I will follow back. And you can leave comments and questions on any of the articles you see on superpoweredfancast.com. Now, I am making a lot of changes to the site. I am adding some new features, and I want to get your feedback on them. Because the name is Superpowered Fancast, I'm adding a feature every Friday. There's actually even a menu item is going to be called Fancast Friday. And we've already got I've already got my first Fancast Friday article up. And it is because, in honor of Stephen King's It, coming out in September. Is it September or October? Well, it's coming out soon. I think it's September, and I know I'll be there to see it and have my review. But in honor of that film, I've also decided to fancast the next part, which is all of the kids from the Losers Club as adults. So go to the website, superpoweredfancast.com, click on Fancast Friday, and you'll actually be able to see my picks of who should be the losers as adults. And let me know what yours are. Like, let me know what you think. What are your ideas about who should play Bill Denbrough and Richie Tozier and all that? I would love to hear them, and I may compile them and just and put them up on the site for others to see. But and like I said, again, I really appreciate everybody. I appreciate everybody who's contributing, who's being a part of this with me, and you encourage me to continue on the journey, and I'm going to keep going. So for Superpowered Fancast, this is Darren signing off, saying, see you next week. Bye.
This has been a production of the GWW Radio Network. Please don't forget to subscribe, rate, and review us on iTunes, Stitcher, and SoundCloud. Also, check out Geeks Worldwide at thegww.com for all the latest news, reviews, and opinions on video games, comics, movies, TV, cosplay, and more. Geeks Assemble!